Hi there, welcome to TalentEgg Talks, live on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Mary Barroll, and joining me today is Trevor Buttrum from the Career Connections at the Insurance Institute of Canada. Trevor is Career Connections Program Manager at the Insurance Institute, and in that role, he runs programs to help students and recent grads make the school-to-work transition into a career in the insurance industry. Trevor has over 15 years of experience in career development and campus recruitment, and in fact, last year in 2018, he won the National Campus Recruitment of the Year Award at the TalentEgg Awards, judged by students across Canada, just like you. Welcome, Trevor.
Thanks so much, Mary. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. Well, if you're tuning in right now, we want to make sure that if you have any questions about career connections or the insurance industry, to comment. And we'll try to get to all of the live questions that we can during this session. But in the meantime, Trevor, I wonder if you could just tell our audience a little bit more about what Career Connections does and how you help students and grads.
Absolutely. So Career Connections is a national career education program that's a division of the Insurance Institute of Canada. And we go out and we have conversations with students about the rewarding career paths in Canada's property and casualty insurance industry. So it's really a conversation about taking something that they may not fully understand as a career destination, but really helping students to see that their interests, their skills, their educational backgrounds can apply in this vital and really stable part of our economy.
That's great. Fantastic. So you're often on campus and events on campus as well?
Absolutely. We do about 125 events on campus every year. So it's an opportunity for us to engage in what we call more general outreach. So we're at career fairs or events where students may already be. And then we take them through a pathway of engagement. So really getting to talk to industry professionals about, their different career paths, what they do. It's so much more than just a sales career. There are actually roles as underwriters, adjusters, in actuarial science, data analytics. There's really the full gamut of options available. So we want students to see real people doing those roles and having the opportunity to really engage their career story. And then we also bring employers to campus. So we do insurance-specific events for maybe it's a practice interview, the opportunity maybe to meet an employer and have a conversation about roles or summer opportunities, or even their new grad programs, rotational programs, those kinds of things. And of course, as well, creating recruitment events, so career fairs where they have the chance to actually get hired and make that transition from post-secondary to career.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we want to make sure that we get to some live questions from our audience today, but in the meantime, we'll go to some pre-submitted questions that students who weren't able to make the live event actually submitted before this session.
Sounds great.
So the first one is, what opportunities are currently in demand in the insurance industry, and can you give examples of what kind of roles those are?
Absolutely. So in general, the important thing to understand is that insurance is actually a growing sector, but we also have a talent crunch. So there's about 25,000 professionals who are eligible to retire by 2027. The majority of those retirements, according to the Institute's demographic research, are expected to happen by 2022. So there's a wealth of opportunity across the sector. Particularly in demand right now for us are roles in commercial underwriting, so those who accept and reject risk on behalf of insurance organizations, but who are really focused on business, so the commercial aspects of the work, and in specialty lines, so those kind of neat or quirky or emerging risk areas that we're seeing come out in the sector, so things related in particular to climactic change, cybersecurity, or the sharing economy, things like Uber and Airbnb. The other thing that we'll see sort of experience some growth is technology. So data analytics, business analysts, and as well individuals who contribute to things like digital strategy or building applications by which we distribute products or individuals find claims. So it's a really interesting time for us because there's not only growth in our operational areas, so underwriting I mentioned, as well as in claims and the sales and service side, but also on that technology space is actually an emerging area of the industry.
I think it's fascinating. The insurance really touches every aspect of our lives, really.
Absolutely. My background is as a career and work practitioner, so I've had the opportunity to support students and career changers through a variety of aspects of the labor market. And it's amazing, like when you consider that full broad spectrum, how much of it is actually represented within the insurance space. So we have individuals with backgrounds in healthcare, individuals with engineering backgrounds, law, a wide array of sort of options. Yeah, it's kind of neat to see those different backgrounds and experience profiles intersect and really make the business go.
Mm-hmm. Well, we just got our first question from Instagram.
Great.
Are there any kind of designations or courses you recommend taking to build a career in insurance?
It's really interesting that you asked that question. It's quite frequent that we're, when talking to students, that they surface, I don't necessarily have any insurance education. The fact of the matter is that there's only 15 colleges and universities that embed insurance into their core business curriculum. So if you think about all of the learning options out there and the 126,000 Canadians who work in insurance, very few of them actually studied insurance at the post-secondary level. That doesn't mean that there aren't distinct advantages by pursuing some courses or, taking something maybe focused on risk management that you might have offered at your institution, but that doesn't preclude you from finding your place in the industry. More often than not, what happens is an industry professional makes the transition from post-secondary to career and then pursues designations. That's actually why the Insurance Institute of Canada exists. Mm-hmm. We're the designation and education body for the sector. So the Chartered Insurance Professional designation, your advanced CIP, certificates in commercial and risk insurance, as well as seeing individuals have the opportunity to move through their fellowship, so actually an advanced level certification that's more focused on leadership. So I think that what's important to think about is more those networking opportunities, maybe taking a seminar through us, mm-hmm. Being engaged in fundamentals, taking any opportunity that you can to apply what you're learning and think about it in an insurance context, and that will go a long way in terms of helping employers to see how your experience translates into the insurance industry.
Well, that leads really well into my next question, which is really, what kind of soft skills should young people who are interested in hatching a career in insurance think about?
So again, a really great question. And one of the things that we like to say about sort of that soft skills piece is that we actually deem them as workplace critical in the insurance industry. We think that the skills that you bring to the table that might be focused around teamwork, communications, critical thinking, problem solving and decision making, design thinking, all of those kinds of pieces are sort of skills that we can capitalize on, and they can be applied in a variety of contexts in each of our roles. So if you have, experience, maybe in working as part of a team, and you've been able to take something from beginning through end, those are skills that we're interested in. And certainly, anytime that you've been a little bit innovative or a little bit creative in finding a solution to a problem, insurance professionals do that every day. Uber really came into the marketplace not out of nowhere, but it certainly was something that shifted the way that we needed to insure vehicles, for example. And so new products, new ways of thinking, new ways of processing claims needed to be adopted relatively quickly in order to respond to that change. The pace of change is greater than it ever has been before, those disruptors. So somebody who's able to ride that wave and actually be a change agent rather than feeling like change resistant is really an important part of what we're looking for.
And how would you recommend that somebody who was interested in seeking a career in the insurance industry demonstrate that or show that part of their character?
I think that there are a wide array of ways to do that, whether it's through your involvement in student clubs and groups or co-curricular activities, but being able to translate those into workplace appropriate contexts. So again, being able to talk about maybe the conversations that you had around budget, or the conversations that you had around maybe making a difficult decision and communicating that message, even if it was just canceling an event. That's a decision that you needed to make. There was a lot of thought that went into it, and how did you communicate that so that your stakeholders within that club we're still engaged, right? Those kinds of things are ways that you can kind of take it to the next, I guess, to that next stage, and saying, I've delivered difficult messages before, or I've needed to think about things carefully. I've come up with a creative solution. And now I'm able to translate that into another environment. That's my done list. It's something that I can draw upon and use in any environment. The other thing too that you can do is anything that you've learned in your courses, anything that you've built from a knowledge perspective, talk about it in really applicable ways. How will you apply that knowledge? How do you think it's relevant to what you may be doing in the insurance sector? How is it relevant to the job description? Each time you go through a job description and say to yourself, yes, I can do that, or those are the things that are a part of my character, come up with some concrete examples to be able to evidence that. Other ways, certainly work experience. So anytime that you've been on the job, being able to draw relevant sort of parallels and making connections between what you might be doing in the insurance role and what you've done previously. Anything from being a camp counselor, I can't think of anything that requires more risk management than 8-year-olds with bows and arrows. Those kinds of things, or being a lifeguard, spotting trouble before it happens, being engaged in the retail environment, working with customers and developing sort of a really meaningful relationship, office environments, construction, all applicable to our sector. Lots of transferable skills that can be brought to the table for sure.
Terrific. Well, we just have our first Facebook question.
Great.
Live. It's hi there. I was wondering, what is the typical career trajectory in the insurance industry?
So the important thing to keep in mind is that there are a wide array of entry points into the sector. Career Connections actually promotes 9 of them, sort of across the board. And so those are all operational roles within the business. They don't take into account things like HR, IT, data analytics, the support functions that really make our operations go. So when you take a look at each of those roles, each one has a little bit of a different trajectory, but in general, know that it's more often than not that you're going to come in at an entry point. That's so that you have the opportunity to hone your craft, get a little bit of insurance education and knowledge behind you, have the opportunity to benefit from mentorship or training programs that might exist within that particular organization. And you'll find that the potential for advancement within the insurance industry is actually higher than average. What we find is that, for example, in comparison to other financial services careers, individuals within their first 5 years in insurance may have been promoted up to 2 or 3 times, whereas individuals in financial services careers and other environments may find that may only be 1 or 2. So we tend to see people move quickly through if they're demonstrating really good skill sets, really good knowledge, and also certainly a strong work ethic.
Okay, terrific. Here's a question that was pre-submitted, and this may go to some of the programs that you actually offer, both on campus and elsewhere.
Okay.
How do I build my network in the insurance industry?
So networking for anyone who's considering, that post-secondary career, it can be a scary proposition, right? It's sort of this unknown entity. It's like everybody talks about it, but nobody really talks about how to do it. I always encourage people to think back to when they were first stepping foot on campus. You grew a network, right? You were new. You might have had a couple of friends who came with you along the way, yes. But you needed to be curious. You needed to ask questions. You needed to figure out how things worked. And it's the same when you're considering a career path, is that, anytime that you have the opportunity to engage somebody who's in the insurance industry, chances are you or your parents have purchased insurance products. Who did they do that from? Who's the insurance carrier for, even the university or institution? They likely have a department of risk management. Insurance professionals may be lurking on your campus and working in those areas. So it's an opportunity to go and get connected. Of course, coming to Career Connections events is the other way to do that. Anybody who we bring with us to a career fair is actually an insurance professional. We have networks of up to, I think we have 397 on the roster right now, industry professionals who are giving of their time and energy, who are really excited to share their career journey and career story. And I think that's just who we are as a sector, and it's really neat to see that. So you can encounter those individuals there. Certainly reaching out on LinkedIn is a great way to go. You might even want to have a conversation with Career Services to figure out where alumni from your institution are working, and reach out to those individuals on LinkedIn. They might have had a co-op experience or might have had a really valuable transition point from graduation to their career path. And people actually really love to share those stories and those aspects of how they got started, where they got started, what their connection points might look like. So whether it's through us at a Career Connections event, whether it's reaching out through LinkedIn or thinking just about who might already be in your insurance network, those are some really good strategies. The last one I'll leave you with is there are lots of professional associations. The Insurance Institute, actually it's tonight. We're hosting a trivia night here in Toronto.
Fantastic.
You don't necessarily, it's not insurance trivia, it's pop culture. So
great.
Why not sign up for those kinds of things and go out? We're curlers, we're golfers, we're networkers. There are things that you can go to where you can get a little bit of insurance knowledge, but then you also have the chance to talk to industry professionals and kind of get a feel for what they're about and share your story that you're interested, excited, and want to be a part of the sector. And I think it'll go a long way.
That personal connection, engagement.
There are professional associations as well for adjusters, for brokers, for underwriters as well. So lots of ways to get connected.
Great. Well, we have another question from Facebook. How can I tailor my resume when applying to a position in insurance? Or do you have any key tips?
One, there are lots of articles actually that we publish on TalentEgg that give you sort of starter points or ways to think about. So I would certainly check out those. I think the important thing to do anytime that you're applying to a job, and this actually goes for anyone out there who's applying to positions in general, but also specifically in the insurance industry, this is what HR tells us consistently they need to see, is your ability to be able to take not just what you've done, but be able to talk about it in terms of meaningful accomplishments or like what the impact was of those pieces of your work experience. So rather than just saying, provided customer service. To whom? How often? To what degree? Did you get positive feedback? Providing a little bit of additional enlightenment, and if you can, quantities to that, so that we can kind of get a feel for the size and scope of your work, or the general impact of your work or quality. Those kinds of things help employers start to visualize you in that context, right? In the context of the role. The other thing to do is to compare what you've done and your experience and your background, and look at an insurance job description, identify their top 5 needs, and tailor your resume to address those top 5 needs, right? So if you can get a feel for like 2 to 3 job descriptions, even start to have patterns, identify those patterns and start to respond to the need. Like anything, when you're looking for something, whether it's a cell phone, an apartment, a car, you have a checklist. Employers are the same, and they like to be able to see how you're going to fit into not only the job, but also their culture and their environment.
Right, and it's so important to be able to have real examples that a candidate can point to.
Absolutely, and never think that any example that you have isn't relevant.
Right.
I think in insurance, and so far in our conversation, we've demonstrated that insurance is applicable in so many contexts. It's virtually a part of everything we do in life and in business, and so there's very little that actually isn't applicable. So share those examples, share those stories, and I think you'll find that you'll start to get noticed.
Great. Well, I have an interesting question from Instagram.
Okay.
Can I apply for a career in insurance with a psychology degree?
Yes. The answer is yes. A psychology degree actually can come in handy in a variety of contexts. So it depends on which aspect of psychology you're most interested in. If it's that people-focused kind of work in terms of being able to help people when something perhaps not so great has happened in their lives. So that's where our adjusters come in. If you think about it, an individual who's calling their insurance company to file a claim, something terrible has just happened. So whether it's a flood in your house, whether it's a fire, maybe business has been interrupted as a result of extreme weather, maybe there has been an issue in terms of a cybersecurity breach, those kinds of things, you're going to need to walk somebody through what their insurance policy covers, what kind of coverage they can expect, in terms of, and supports they can expect, and who they need to work with to achieve getting back to where they were before that loss occurred. And so you're really kind of a navigator through all of that process. So your ability to be sort of part therapist, part investigator, to also kind of get to the root of what actually happened and who's liable here, is really important. And those interrogative and those interpersonal and those people-focused skills are going to go a really long way. So psychology can be very applicable in that context. The other is the research and analytics.
Right.
If you love the data, if you love what drives decisions, you could work for us in a data analytics position if you're really gifted in the stats space, or you might even consider underwriting, that accepting and rejecting risk on behalf of insurance companies. Or if you really just have a good understanding of what makes people buy, our broker channel may be for you.
Okay, great. So here's an interesting question, and this is your chance to sell the industry, but the question is, why should I pursue a career in insurance? So obviously, what are the value propositions?
Well, short answer, why not? But also longer term, I think what's really important for people to realize that insurance offers a lot more than you may think it does initially. I can certainly list that, when we ask industry professionals their thoughts on the sector, 97% of them feel that they contribute to their company's success. So they're actually taking steps to be able to see, a direct connection between the work that they do every day and the company that they work for and the results they achieve. 94% are proud to work in the industry. That's huge,
fantastic engagement.
Right? And so I think that you have a lot of industry professionals who are just excited and feel like that's a great place to be. The other that I just want to sort of share and put out there is that, it's about the stability and the variety. The industry isn't going anywhere. We added 12,000 positions to our workforce at the height of the last economic recession. The other thing to look at is the tremendous variety. So you can, if we're not going anywhere, you can actually navigate exactly where you want to go. So if you start out in underwriting and decide that claims is more for you, you can make that transition.
Really?
You can start to specialize within different areas of underwriting as well. You can really navigate and grow your career based on who you are and what you bring to the table. And I think as a career practitioner, for me, that's probably one of the most exciting value propositions out there.
I agree. We have another question from Instagram.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot of insurance is related to sales. I think you just addressed that. So the question is that true? And obviously not.
So the important thing to recognize is that insurance is a business like any other. So of course, with a product, you need a sales force to be able to drive that. We hope that the only insurance professional that you ever need to encounter is that sales professional. So that's the one we're most familiar with, right? Mm-hmm. It's buying that promise of peace of mind that I pay premium every month. Should something happen, I have insurance when I need it. So that broker or that agent is sort of the entry point or conduit. It's the most familiar to all of us. And so it is often what we associate with the business. But there's so much more happening behind the scenes on the other side, right? So the underwriters, the actuaries, the risk managers, the people who are focused on business development, individuals who are appraising or determining the true value of something. It's really quite a true run of the gamut. I encourage that individual to check out the Career Connections website, check out our profile on TalentEgg, and really just start to explore the true breadth. There's even a quiz that you can take.
Oh, great.
That based on your interests and your skills and your experiences to date, that'll highlight some of the starting points, things that you might want to consider or careers that you might want to take a look at.
So based on whatever you demonstrate as your interest or your competencies?
Yeah, we give you a little bit of a taste of what that role looks and feels like, and you can start to learn more about it, full career profiles and even videos of people who are doing that work, sharing their career stories. So
fantastic. Yeah. Lots of resources. This is a good question from Facebook. How can I gain relevant experience as a student? So a number of insurance organizations, and this number is growing, do offer summer employment opportunities. Some are stepping into the co-op or experiential learning space. So definitely keeping an eye out on how your campuses work with those insurance organizations in terms of helping fill those roles, whether it's an insurance-specific event through us, certainly career postings. I know that there's been a number of postings as well on TalentEgg for positions, and we encourage our employers to post widely to try and garner that support. So it's really about keeping your eyes open.
The other that I would encourage you to do is start to do research on companies that are within the geography that you're looking to work for the summer, and start even just reaching out, to them when they're on campus, or at, maybe sending a cold letter or reaching out, on LinkedIn, to have conversations so that you can, understand when those opportunities might be coming up. If they don't have them, why not? And like, what would they consider, a student for the summer? A small brokerage may not realize that, there's a student out there who wants to work for them in their community, right? And so approaching them, and they might realize, yeah, actually we have quite a bit going on this summer. It would be great if you could offer this kind of support, right? So again, not being afraid to sort of step out there and explore the opportunities, get connected, and even ask the question, do you need somebody like me?
We do have another question on Facebook, but I think you've been doing a great job of explaining this in any case, which is, where can I go to learn more about the insurance industry? Well, obviously to your website, Career Connections.
Absolutely. Career Connections is a great resource. It's got lots of layers and lots of depth of information. So starting with the quiz can be really helpful, but if you already know, sort of a destination or a pathway, you can jump right to the career profiles, or if you want to see how your degree might align to different roles in the industry, you can click on the post-secondary and get a feel for how your education lines up. The other piece that you can do to learn more is certainly just visit company websites, read about their culture, read about their organization. The other thing that I think is really important is to start to build that network, start to maybe even check out, trade publications. There are articles, there are groups on LinkedIn. Get connected to the information and just stay on top of the trends and emerging issues that are coming out there. And I think you'll start to learn as much as you can, and maybe even identify some nice niches in the industry that you can be a part of. Yeah,
that's great. And we also publish a lot of content on our blog, The Incubator, and we have a profile for the Insurance Institute that tells a lot of this information that's valuable as
absolutely.
well.
Our day in a life profiles are some of the most engaged content that's out there, and it gives you a real preview of what that role might look and feel like for you, right? Yeah. So it goes in depth. The other thing that we've done on TalentEgg too is actually published a couple of emerging trends pieces, just so that you can stay up to date on some of the things that are happening in the sector.
What are some of the things that are happening in the sector in terms of emerging trends?
Some of them we've hit on already in terms of climatic change, technology, certainly just technological disruption, the sharing economy. We're starting to see drones even play a role, in terms of not only how we insure them, but also in the way that we do business. So drones actually being engaged in agricultural insurance in particular, right? Being able to go out and survey the fields, those kinds of things. Yeah. The other that we're seeing a lot of is autonomous vehicles. So driverless cars. I think that's sort of an emerging issue. It's something that as cars become more and more sophisticated, and the Tesla, for example, there are autonomous vehicles coming, so they're not far off. So the insurance industry has some exciting work to do in that space, and certainly is an influencer. And then the other AI, those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's really a sexy industry really now, but the impact of it is phenomenal.
Anything that you're sort of seeing as emerging in the news, insurance needed to respond to. And insurance has had to be a part of those game-changing issues, be at the forefront of them, and make sure that we're ready to be able to respond to the needs of our consumers, but also to the needs of just individuals everywhere.
Right. I do have a question that is kind of more nuts and bolts, but with your background in career development, I think this is really relevant. Can you give your top tips for doing a strong interview for an insurance company?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing is to be authentic. I think as soon as we try to pretend that we're something that we're not, all of a sudden we get into really kind of shifty territory, right? And it doesn't feel good for anyone in the room. I think the other is to prepare, to practice the interview whenever you have the opportunity, whether it's with a career advisor, whether it's with a trusted friend, whether it's even just having the opportunity to go on interviews. I think it's really important to have the opportunity to practice it through and get good at it. The only way you get better at something like this is to do it as often as you can. I think it's about, understanding some of the core questions, being able to formulate responses that are, succinct but also relevant, and share all of the meat that the employer is looking for, those relevant examples we were talking about, taking a deep breath, and making sure that you just feel centered and comfortable in the space, and also treating everyone that you meet in the interview process as your potential boss.
Right.
Right? So anybody that you encounter, whether it's the individual scheduling the interview on the phone, the person that you meet in reception, the individual that you meet as they walk you back into the space, whatever the case may be, everybody who's a part of that panel gets your eye contact, your smile, your engagement, and also you portraying that professional that you want to be.
And they could very well have an impact or input into the decision.
The overall process, absolutely. We've seen that a number of times.
Right.
And the final tip that I have is follow-up. A thank you letter goes a long, long way, and that virtual communication is just fine. And it's amazing how many students don't seize that opportunity. Even in my most recent round of interviewing, I only had 1 of 4 candidates.
Oh my goodness. That's a lesson for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. It's been a really fascinating discussion with you, Trevor. Thank you very much for being our guest. We learned so much about the insurance industry.
Well, yeah, thanks so much, everybody. It was great to engage with you for a little bit, and certainly a pleasure anytime to come into the Egg Carton and have some conversation. Please keep the conversation going on social media. We do have Facebook and Twitter accounts. You can certainly reach out to us there. And certainly on TalentEgg, our profile has lots of great content associated with it, and we're really excited to field even more questions as they come in. So that'll be great.
Well, thanks again, Trevor. And everyone out there on Facebook and Instagram, it was great that you could join us. Thanks so much. And stay tuned for our next TalentEgg Talk Live event. And until then, you can catch, if you did catch the whole live event here, you can actually see a recording of this video on our Instagram stories. So tune in there. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.